Hello, my name is Nidhana and I am an intern at Modlingua. Today I am going to speak about culture and language. Culture and language are sometimes defined as interconnected and their relationship is complicated. Learning a language requires more than mastering words and grammar rules. Just because you know how to pronounce lemon and grass in French doesn't ensure you'll be prepared to purchase lemonade at a Parisian coffee shop. You might be astonished by what you get instead. There's more to interacting with a native speaker than how little you can learn from a dictionary. This is why it is impossible to learn a language independent of its cultural context. Language acquisition is also influenced by the motivation of students, their native culture, and their familiarity with the target language culture. Understanding culture is like having a context that enables you to give each new term the appropriate meaning. The more you understand the socio-cultural context, the simpler it will be to participate and pick up new terms, phrases, and methods of speaking. Learning a language well enough to converse with a native speaker necessitates an understanding of culture. It is clearly an element, if not the most significant aspect of culture, which encompasses a vast range of human existence and behavior. As previously stated, culture cannot be separated from the language learning. Culture is a crucial feature of the language acquisition that adds flavor to the process of learning a target language. Though language may not agree with the target language's culture, they must understand that acquiring a good command of the second language entails the ability to deal with conversational events that require specific language such as structures, lexical items, phonetics, and so on, and a cultural set of culturally defined rules. Language and thinking. Furthermore, a language reflects and influences a society's way of thinking and changes the language process culturally. Language is more than just a medium of exchanging information. It has an impact on our culture as well as our mental process. Many of the categories we use that represent our thoughts are provided by the language. Therefore, it's only logical to believe that our thinking is impacted by the language we use. People are trying to figure out if humans think in language and if organisms without language can think and how language influences our thoughts. The brain is where the speech originates. The brain's complexity and intricacy enables creative speech. Two main questions that comes to my mind: is language acquisition a product of nature or nurture? The second one is which comes first, the language or thought? Common sense tells us that language is a useful tool for expressing, but that is not necessary. Thus, some researchers have found that young children understand the concept way before they have words to explain them, and they can assign objects to categorizing even when they do not have relevant vocabulary. Cultural thought patterns behind the language of communication. In order to communicate effectively across cultures, you need to understand the cultural thought patterns behind the language of communication. The way we think equally depends on culture and it is influenced by the culture. Different cultures are distinguished by various thought patterns. What is a thought pattern? A thought pattern expresses the interaction of a number of concepts. It represents a way to think about the underlying subject matters. The most obvious example of thought pattern is provided by a language itself. As a thought pattern, our language shapes the way of thinking in more than we could even express. It influences how we hear. There are some strategies which we should take into account to escape conflicts during communication between cross-cultural communicators. The first one is take responsibility for the communication. When we communicate with others, it is very tempting to blame them for not understanding us. Surely, we with our outstanding oratory skills, cannot be possible to fault. The problem with this attitude is that it does not achieve our outcome of getting the other person to comprehend what we are trying to say. The second one is check non-verbal feedback. When you speak to someone, do not assume that you are making yourself clear to the other person. Check for their non-verbal feedback. People give us many clues as to whether they are trying to understand or assuming. The fourth one is be flexible. If you speak to someone, you can tell by their non-verbal cues and change the way you communicate. When you realize you do not understand, begin to draw pictures. Keep changing your communication style until you find that works with a particular individual. The next one is do not make people wrong. When we communicate with others, the chances are very good that we will have to change strategies along the way. Do not make people wrong because their communication style is very different from yours. Language as a collector of culture. Because language is learned behavior, it is therefore part of culture. If most transmissions of ideas, knowledge, customs, and values are entitled of culture, so we can say that they are reflected in language. They are collected in words and phraseological units which preserve the wisdom of culture. The knowledge and beliefs that constitute a people's culture are habitually encoded and transmitted into language. Language is a collector of culture, and through language, human beings generate, collectivate meanings, actions, thought, feelings, and social organization. Language is an endless creative vehicle for self-expression, group expressions, and entertainment. Language is both part of culture as well as the medium by which culture is defined and described, such as stories, fairy tales, legends, humor, jokes, saying, proverbs, and idioms. Collect and preserve culture, the wisdom of nation, their customs, and the ways of life. Language is a collector of culture. To prove this, let us consider English phraseological units and especially idioms. They are like a drop in the ocean of English culture that reflects its significance. Throughout history, English is language particularly rich in idioms, those modes of expression peculiar to a language that frequently defy logical and grammatical rules. There are at least 25,000 idiomatic expressions in English language. Idiom is an expression, a word, or a phrase that has figurative meaning that is comprehended in regards to the common use of that expressions that is separate from the literal meaning or definition of the words of which it was made from. And I am concluding by the words of Rita Mae Brown. Language is the road map of culture. It tells you where its people come from and where they go. Thank you.